is Chet Holmgren, and I'm down to dunk.
This is AJ Mitchell, and I'm down to dunk.
This is Alex Crusoe, and I'm down to dunk.
It's like baby bottle pop. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. This is Adam Flagler, and I'm down to dunk.
Hey, it's Isaiah Hartenstein, and I'm down to dunk.
This is Cason Wallace, and I'm down to dunk.
I can't spell Lucas. Hey, how do you spell Lucas? How do you spell Lucas?
This is Lou Dort, and I'm down to Dort.
This is Nikola Topic, and I'm down to dunk.
This is Dylan Jones, and I'm down to dunk. This is Isaiah Joe, and I'm down to dunk.
And there's probably like 50 to 75 Beanie Babies.
Give me like your top 3 Pokemon.
Brother, I can't even name.
This is Jay Will, and I'm down to dunk.
Sometimes the way his brain works is it leaves a lot to be desired.
This is Kenrich Williams, and I'm down to dunk.
Charmander.
Yeah.
Charmander. Or you're more of a Charmeleon guy.
Charmeleon.
This is Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, and I'm down to dunk.
Schlecht. You know what
Schlecht?
it means? Yeah.
That means like bad.
It means bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's me.
Well, it was a good interview, so it wasn't bad.
J-Dub, year 3, and I'm down to dunk for the 3rd time. Thank you.
Welcome to Down to Dunk. I'm your host, Andrew Schlecht. We're part of the Athletic Podcast Network. With me, as always, on a Wednesday is my good friend Alex Speers. Alex, what's up?
What's up, Andrew?
And special guest, good friend of the pod and good friend in life, Fred Katz. Fred,
what's going on, guys?
welcome to Down to Dunk. You've obviously been on Down to Dunk several times, but it's just such a treat when you get to join us. So very excited.
It's such a treat to join. I've been on, I don't know, more than several times.
Yeah, a bunch of times. Back when you were doing Locked on Thunder, we would do. We would swap episodes.
I don't know how I had found time to do extra podcasts when I was doing Locked on Thunder, because I was doing 5 podcasts a week. I don't know how I had even the strength in my trachea.
It is a lot of podcasting. It's a lot. So Fred, you have been around the Thunder some, so I wanted to bring you on to talk about the team, obviously, just your perspective. Also talk about Isaiah Hartenstein as well, who you know pretty well, as he was on the New York Knicks, the team that you covered last season. Before that, there were a couple things that happened in the Kings game that I just can't stop thinking about. One, Luguentz Dort only scored 2 points. Or no, he didn't score, I don't think, in this game, but he only took 2 shot attempts in this game against the Kings. And that hasn't happened since the bubble, August 12th, 2020. But I wanted to ask you guys this question. He played 39 minutes in the game. How many times has he done that in the regular season for his career? How many times has he played 39 minutes or more in a game?
Well, I'm guessing by your tone, it must be a very low number.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's my
Are we including overtime?
Sure, include all of it. Yeah.
Interesting.
There's no exclusions. Any regular season game.
I'll set the over under. We'll do this slam and jam style.
Yeah.
I'll set it at 6 games.
Okay.
And so then I'm picking the over under. Alex just completely and utterly changed the conversation here.
Yep.
Andrew was like, guess how many? Alex was like, nope, I'm gonna pass this along.
Let me
not guess. And
let me be the game master.
No, I did guess.
I'm definitely gonna take no. You set the over under. You didn't guess. You set the over under. Then I have to guess, and I'm gonna guess under 6.
Okay, well, this is way underwhelming then, because I thought 10 was a low number.
Yes. So I win the point.
I thought 10 was a low number. I thought that was
all right. Trivia. Weird. Let's go next. We're doing trivia the whole podcast.
Okay. I have another one.
Really?
Kenrich Williams hasn't taken 2 free throws in a game since what year? We'll go with that. Oh boy. So he took 4 free throws in the game against the Kings, and I was freaking out all by myself on my couch because I could not believe. One, I couldn't believe he took 2. I thought that was amazing. You know, it doesn't happen maybe every like 10 or 12 games that he actually shoots free throws. But then he got to the line for the second time, and I was losing it just all by myself. When was the last time that he took more than 2 free throws in a game? What year? We'll just go with what year.
Alex, give me the over under on the year.
Alex, be the game master and completely take this question over, please.
I'm gonna go 2021.
Okay.
No way. It's got to have happened since then.
It has
I'm
February
gonna say
12th. Yeah.
February 12th.
Of
It's got to be 2023.
it was 2022.
What?
Yeah. February 12th, 2022 was the last time that he took more than 2 free throws in a game.
That's wild. Do you guys know that's the second most wild free throw thing on my mind today? The most wild is, do you know it's been 23 days since Mikal Bridges has drawn a 2-point shooting foul?
Oh no.
Really?
Yeah. 23 days.
That's
11 games.
That's too many days for a guy that's that good.
That's so many days.
What's
He
up
got
with
fouled on a 3. And he's gone 11 consecutive games without drawing a 2-point shooting foul. He shot 3 free throws.
What happened to Mikal Bridges, Fred? I just don't understand what's going on with him.
I don't really understand what's going on either. It's very odd. It's very odd. He's taken 3 free throws in his last 11 games. It was because he got fouled on a 3. And that was it. Very weird.
That is brutal. That is brutal. Something that's not brutal.
Invested by Kenrich Williams.
Yeah.
On free throws.
Yeah. Doubled up by Kenrich Williams in this time frame. That is truly embarrassing.
Yeah. Got skeeted by Kenrich Williams. Just sorry, I don't know the new terminology with
we were talking before the pod about Blue Sky and how the terminology is skeet,
which is offensive to me.
Slight. I mean, okay, it's your choice.
That's gonna hurt. That's gonna hurt the reach of Blue Sky if that's the real term that we're using. Like nobody said this Twitter thing seems like it wasn't 2010 and people are like, this Twitter thing seems to really be taking off. Should we say that it's a tweet, or should we call it, when you post on there, should we call it busting on? I just busted on Twitter. No, that would be insane. If we were like, oh yeah, I just busted out that point on Twitter. That would be insane if we said that.
Listen, Fred, you have no room to talk about any of this. Okay.
As a matter of fact, I have the most room. If anyone has busted on, you know what? Never mind.
Yeah, let's not go there. Let's talk about Isaiah Hartenstein, who's played 2 games for the Thunder and has looked amazing and has helped this team right away. I haven't seen anyone screen like this on the Thunder since Steven Adams, and he is just clearly a brilliant basketball player. Like, he just knows how to help this team organize itself. Like, he is the ultimate. He's probably like the ultimate center glue guy in the NBA, because he can score in the paint when you need him to. He makes great passes. He screens. He's a great defender. He's helping everybody kind of space the floor, because sometimes you're like, okay, he's not a traditional center. He's not going to shoot the 3. Is he going to help the spacing? Well, he absolutely helps the spacing, because he knows how to pass and he knows how to screen. Like, he just does everything that you would need a guy to do. Fred, let's talk just about what you thought Isaiah would do with this team, if this is like what you would think you would see immediately, and then just kind of your experience covering him.
Yeah, I mean, I would have been very surprised if this wasn't the case. This is exactly what I think anybody who was familiar with his game had in mind upon the Thunder signing him, that he would just fit in so well with them. He subscribes to a very particular and kind of ironically rigid belief that the game should not be rigid. He believes in improvisation. He believes in understanding the little nuances and playing angles. He understands with moving defenses with his eyes when he passes.
Does he believe in less pattern, more rhythm, which is like the thing that Sam Presti is trying to make a thing at like every postseason press conference?
Less pattern, more rhythm. I spoke to Mark Daignault last week, and he was talking about bothering the rhythm of a defense. We were talking about rhythm and rhythmic offense, and wanting to throw off the rhythm of an offense when you're defending, when we were talking about that. With Hartenstein, it's funny you mentioned the screening. He really is an excellent screener. He's a really excellent flat screener, which is when you come up behind the defender. Speaking of skeeting, when you come up behind the defender and then you angle your screen based on where the defender is going to go and based on how that defender is, based on where your guy is going to go as well. And he is like an expert at reading a defender's footwork and knowing, okay, I have to set this screen angle a little bit differently. I have to angle this screen a little bit more to the right, a little bit more to the left, a little bit more to the center. And he is expert at being able to figure that out and also not getting called for a moving screen in the process. He's really, really good at that, really good in impeding the screener's way. And then he's really good at finding space inside the defense after. So it's not like he's just going to set the screen and hard roll to the rim every single time. What he's going to do is he's going to survey the floor as he's rolling, and he's going to pace his rolls. And that also is what helps him so much as a secondary creator. If he sets a screen for Shea and they trap Shea and gives up the ball, he's got that 4-on-3. It's going to help him as that secondary creator as well. And that was a really dangerous weapon when he was with the Knicks last year, running those pick and rolls with Jalen Brunson. And I'm sure it will be exactly the same thing with the Thunder.
Yeah, I like that you said improvisation, because I remember when he, was traded to the Thunder, he got described as a playmaker a lot. And I just, now that I've seen him play more often, I don't feel like playmaker is really describing what he does, but I think improvisation is really good, because for a team that has such good decision makers kind of across the board, there's been multiple times, even just in these first 2 games, where you can see that Hartenstein is processing the game at a much higher level than anyone on the court. A lot of times, like, the other guys just haven't caught up to what he's thinking yet. And it's just been a while since I've seen a Thunder player like that. Like, you can clearly see that he is seeing the game at a different level than most of the players that we're used to. And so I like that idea of improvisation, because that's kind of what I've seen these first 2 games.
Yeah, he's very observant. He's very observant in the moment in terms of picking up other teams' tendencies, other players' tendencies, all that kind of stuff. And he's very observant in general. Like, he credits a lot of his passing, for example, to he didn't spend that much time with the Nuggets. But if you guys talk to him about Nikola Jokic and him playing with Jokic, he credits so much of his passing to the way that he kind of became Jokic's understudy when he was there. And he was like, you know what? I'm going to soak up all the knowledge that I possibly can while I'm teammates with this guy. And Jokic really taught him about moving the defense with his eyes, specifically, looking off one way and just getting a defender to shade him one tiny little way and then making the pass elsewhere. Taught him about that kind of patience, taught him about that kind of vision. It's not like he couldn't pass before that. It's not like he wasn't skilled before that. He already had this skill set, but I think Jokic really helped him enhance that. At least he credits Jokic for a lot of that stuff. He is very observant in that sense, and he soaks things up a lot. He wants to play really fast, and when people talk about playing fast, and they think of fast breaks and that kind of stuff. That's not what I mean. He wants to play with pace inside the half court. That's what he wants to do. He is a big believer on just like half-second decision making. You get the ball, you make a decisive move every single time. You're not going to stand there and be like, what the heck is going on here? And I think that brings pace to your half-court offense, and it's part of the reason why you can have a really good half-court offense when he's out there, even though he's not a three-point shooting center.
Yeah, and I mean, the thing that's been really fun to see, and we've obviously seen this with the Knicks, but just seeing the other Thunder players understand his lefty floater, like the mid-paint floater, as just like this like outlet for them, because they drive so much. They obviously drives the most of the NBA, but when they get there, just having that dump off that's, not just right at the rim, because oftentimes the lane is so clogged that you don't really have anywhere to go with it but out to the 3-point line. But now having the 3-point line and the Hartenstein floater there as like these two options, once you get into the lane, if you don't have a clear line to the bucket, like that, I think is going to, as they learn more about how to use him, I feel like that's going to open up the offense so much that, teams are going to start closing to Hartenstein. And then I think it will open up even better open threes. What did you see with that particular skill with the Knicks and how it opened things up for their offense?
Yeah, that floater is like automatic. He hit 8
Yeah.
of those in a playoff game against Philadelphia last
So
year.
crazy. That is so
Like 8.
crazy.
it was insane because what was happening was they were just going Brunson, Hartenstein, pick and roll. Embiid was in a drop. And when Embiid's in a deep drop or any center's in a deep drop, what Hartenstein does is he attacks off the pick and roll. And when he gets to 7 feet, he's just like, you're still at the rim? Okay, I'm just putting it up. This is my open floater. And it goes in. And it's a very easy read for him in those situations. Because what happens is if the big steps up, then that means that he might have a cutter, especially if there's an advantage, especially if they're going to trap someone like Shea. If the big steps up, the low man steps up, whatever that last line of defense is steps up, then there might be a cutter. There might be an open shooter in the corner. There might be an open shooter on the wing who's one pass away, and Hartenstein can swing to the corner, who can then swing to the guy in the wing, and you get an open standstill 3 right there. Like when you have that floater, it opens things up in other places. That's also kind of a floor spacer in a way because it's so freaking automatic. And what's funny is like that I feel like that is probably the first real move that he had in his bag, because his father taught him that move when he was a little kid, because his dad was a pro in Germany for years. He had a really long career, 12, 13 years. He played pro in Germany, but his dad was a very typical old school big man. Like the way I've never seen his dad play, but the way it was described is he was like the Reggie Evans of Germany. You know, he was just this brooding, grabbing boards, no offensive game, all of that. And so his dad was like, you're not going to be like me. I'm teaching you all these skills. So I'm going to teach you how to pass, and I'm going to teach you how to shoot. And his dad was his coach. I'm going to teach you how to shoot. I'm going to teach you these skill moves. I'm going to teach you the floater. And the floater was one of the first things that he had him practicing on night and day, making sure like you need this move. This move is extremely important. You can't just go in and try to lay it up or dunk it every time, because then you're going to end up like me. We're going to make you better. And so good parenting. It's helped.
Good parenting, Mr. Hartenstein.
Yes.
Like obviously that this isn't just because Hartenstein, but on cleaning glass, you can, split up the accuracy from the field by zones. And in the short mid-range, okay, against the Kings, they shot 64.7% from the short mid-range, which is very good. But more importantly, the 2 games he has played are 2 of their top 3 games this season in the short mid-range. And that game, if you just look at their shot profile, it was really weird because they barely took any shots at the rim, at least while the game was close. It was all in the mid-range. Like they didn't even take a ton of threes in that first half compared to what they normally would do. So it's interesting adding another like mid-range maestro to this team that already has like Shea and J-Dub. And it's one of the reasons why I think it's going to work with him and Chet, because Chet spacing the floor with J-Dub, Shea, and then Hartenstein, and then pick who you want for the 5th guy, which I think I would pick another shooter. But I think those lineups could be deadly because of what all 3 of these guys can do at almost all 3 levels. I mean, we haven't really seen Hartenstein like take threes yet, but other than that, it feels like everyone on the court could do everything at that point.
Yeah, and the other thing that you'll get if you have that shot selection is he's a really good offensive rebounder. He's a really good offensive rebounder. And one of the things the Knicks used, which I thought was a really interesting strategy that was really, I think, led in part by their analytics department and in part led by Tibbs, is they had an incredible understanding for what types of shots yielded high offensive rebound rates. So, for example, the Knicks knew that floaters gave you a great offensive rebound rate. And they knew that Mitchell Robinson and Isaiah Hartenstein were particularly great at offensive rebounding floaters. And so they put together this team of a bunch of guys who just had floaters. And the Knicks would take shots from the short mid-range, and they would consistently have the last 2 years. They've had a top 10 offense. They're number 2 in offense, and they're taking a lot of shots from the short mid-range. And part of the reason why is because that shot selection is going to give you a very high offensive rebound rate, and you're going to get second chance opportunities. And so when you get J-Dub, who's got such a smooth, soft shot from 10 feet, from 12 feet. He's got that little shoulder in and then fade away that he's so good at. You've got Shea, who's got that same sort of feathery game from there. And you've got Hartenstein down low. You're going to have a higher offensive rebound rate on those kinds of plays. And you might end up with a 20 some odd, you might end up with a 20%, 18% individual offensive rebound rate for Isaiah Hartenstein on those particular shots. And if you do, that's going to really bring up the efficiency of your overall team, even if you're missing some shots too. So that's something that I could see working out well for them as well, because he's really good on the offensive boards, and that's not a weapon that they've had in years past. Like
oh my gosh,
everyone knows about the rebounding. Like
their statement of the year, Fred.
Yes,
like just watching that. I mean, we've seen so many Thunder Kings games, and it's kind of always been the same story. And we kind of saw that story in the first half. Like it's always been that kind of up and down game. Everyone's making shots, but the Kings, because of Sabonis, have always just been so much scarier because we would be throwing out whoever, Kenrich, I guess, would be our best option previously. And even though Sabonis
free
had a
throw
good
hound, the free throw hog,
even though Sabonis had a good game, this game felt so much different from every other previous Thunder Knicks game because of Hartenstein. Like once they started matching up their minutes exactly, it just felt like such a different Thunder Kings game.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. He's really physical, and one of the things that he's really good at is he's really good at knowing guys' tendencies. So, for example, like you're going up against Domas Sabonis, who is actually having a phenomenal year.
Yeah.
And probably the best year of his career. He's been great. Just unbelievably efficient. He's shooting like 62% from the field or something like that right now. He's just been insane. But you're going up against Domas Sabonis, like you're not going to have a situation where he accidentally forgets he's a lefty, which some guys will do. They'll be guarding Domas Sabonis. He'll be the second night of a back-to-back. You're not as well prepared just because it's the end of November, and it's your second game in Hartenstein's case, and you normally face righties, and Domas ends up being able to go left. Like he's not going to have that comfortable space to carve out, because he's going to know everybody's tendencies. One of the reasons he got along with Tom Thibodeau so well, or I shouldn't even say got along with Tom Thibodeau so well. One of the reasons he appreciated, I'd probably say the number one reason, if I could speak for him, that he appreciated Tibbs so well was because he was so into how prepared Tibbs was. And he would talk about how Tibbs was the most prepared coach that he's ever played for. And he appreciated to such a degree Tibbs being so observational about that kind of stuff. Okay, here's everything you need to know about this guy's tendencies, and you're guarding him tonight. And he really took that to heart. And I think that's something that he really values with or without Tibbs, and was something they were just very on the same page about. And so that kind of stuff, along with his strength, his defensive footwork, his other smarts, it's really big. Like you look at the defensive analytics on him, and he grades out as one of the best defensive centers in the NBA.
Yeah. Could you tell me, because something I noticed in that Kings game, which I didn't know if it was an actual skill of his or not. I don't want to say it was flopping, but he was very good at baiting Sabonis into fouls in the second half of that game. He was like very good at selling the contact in a way that when I initially saw the plays, I was like, oh my gosh, Sabonis just threw him. And then on replay, it would look like Hartenstein like really puts a little extra on it. Is that something he had done previously that you had noticed?
So I'm gonna read something right now. May I?
Is it a skeet?
Mm-hmm.
You don't read a skeet, Andrew. Don't read it. This is something I wrote last year. I spoke to Hartenstein. He just absolutely no surprise that 2 seconds into his return, he was just dripping blood from his eye.
Yeah.
Because he gets hit in the face more than any player I've ever seen in my entire life. So he said this to me last year. I wrote it. Said every time I go to the bench, it's kind of like, Isaiah, you're bleeding again, Hartenstein said. I play hard. It's going to come with it. I don't care if I'm bleeding. And then I wrote that he said it all through a recently sewn upper lip that's healing nicely after he received a palm to the face a couple of weeks ago. The wound led to 3 stitches. And then he said, maybe I have a punchable face. And that was his quote. So, Alex, I think that's what you're getting at.
Okay.
And I think he might just have a punchable face.
Just a very punchable face.
Interesting. Because having the combo of him and Dort, I mean, because Dort is like amazing at baiting fouls. I mean, there's a potential here to have truly one of the most annoying teams.
Right. Between the skeet talk and the baiting talk, I just can't handle whatever this podcast has become. Yes, Dort is wonderful.
Also Caruso too. Like between the three, that 3 as a combo is going to be it I mean, hopefully they're all healthy come playoff time. Caruso's really kind of struggled out of the gate here, but if they're all 3 healthy in the playoffs, like those are 3 guys are going to play a ton, and they are going to be. It's going to be ridiculous for other teams to have to deal with those 3.
Yeah, and then I mean, look, J-Dub is not the foul baiter that those guys are, but like he's also this ridiculously versatile, get into your man sort of defender. Like they got guys like that. They got guys like that all over. I mean, you want to talk? I mean, Cambridge Williams is the charge taker.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah,
like,
and I think that
other
like
Jalen Williams is the charge taker.
Yeah. They've assembled like maybe the most annoying defense, maybe in the NBA.
Yeah,
like,
it's very pesky.
Yeah,
it's
and
very
I love
pesky.
that because
they just want to swarm.
Yeah.
If you think about being a fan of a team, what annoys you about another team? Anytime like a non-superstar is getting like calls like that over and over, that is so frustrating. Like when the 5th guy on the court with like Lou Dort just keeps getting calls, it's so annoying because it's like, oh, we have to deal with this in addition to just OKC being a good defensive team. So I think that can be like very, I mean, you saw it with Sabonis. Sabonis was getting so frustrated in the second half of that game. I mean, he was getting to the point where I thought he was eventually going to get a T just because he was like ramping up his physicality so much because he was getting so annoyed. I could see that happening to a lot of teams.
Yeah. Matt Noonan in the chat also mentions Isaiah Joe as a charge taker. In fact, do you know where Isaiah Joe ranks in total charges taken
in the league?
In the NBA this season, where does he rank? What is his rank? In
Alex at the over-under.
Alex
at the over-under.
Alex.
I mean, he's missed a couple games.
He has.
But I'll go 7th in the league. I'm assuming it must be high. So do you want to go better than 7th or worse than 7th, Fred? For the points.
Oh, definitely better. Definitely better. Because I can recall at least a couple. And I've looked at it this year. I do know that Tim Hardaway Jr. leads. Or at least he did lead.
That is true. He is number 1.
Because Tim Hardaway Jr. is quite the charge taker.
Yeah.
Okay.
He is number 1.
I'm gonna say that that Isaiah Joe's got to be top 7.
He is 2nd right now.
Oh wow!
In total charges taken in the NBA, he and Tumani Kamara are tied at total charges.
Money.
So he's got more than Brandon.
He took too many charges. I'll tell you that much.
That's really good.
He certainly did. That reminds me to bring this up. Me and Brett both thought that we had originally come up with the term Startenstein, and we were both just dead wrong. I said it on Down to Dunk on Monday. I said they better start him. They better have Isaiah Startenstein in there. Brett said it at the beginning of the Thunder After Dark episode, and turns out neither of us are original at all. I think it all Startenstein with Fred.
I think this is just a commentary on the 3 of us.
Yeah.
How we all need to probably enhance our sense of humor a little bit.
Perhaps it is.
Perhaps. Next time, instead of tweeting it out, I'll skeet it.
Yeah, you should skeet it.
I mean, I was worried that Mark wasn't going to start him just because we saw the way he's been using Caruso.
Yeah.
And we know that once he gets like in a groove with a starting lineup, even if it's not set every night, but just like the idea, he seemed to be getting a groove with this small ball unit out of necessity. And you just wonder if he was just going to keep it going. But in a game against the Kings, like with Sabonis there, I was like, please, Mark, you can't do this. And he didn't.
No, he didn't. Yeah, it's obviously the right thing to do.
But will that keep up?
I have a question for you guys.
Yeah.
I got a question for you guys. That's a real question. Alex mentioned it. I know he hit his twos in the last game he played, but what do you make of Caruso just being unable to hit a jump shot? What's the concern level there?
I mean, my personal concern level is pretty low. I don't see anything that like looks funky. Like with Bridges at the beginning of the season, it was like, oh my gosh, his jumper looks different. What is going on? Why did he do this?
Yeah.
With Caruso, it looks fine. Like it looks the same. And to me, it's probably just a comfort level with him. And also, like a lot of players go through stretches like this during a season where they will make 10% of their threes over the course of a couple of weeks or whatever. Like that happens. It just sticks out a lot more when it's the first stretch of the season. Yeah. So I personally don't have a lot of concern about it.
And maybe this is dumb, but I do wonder, could his offensive game be affected by the fact that he was being asked to play center for like the first stretch of this season? That just seems like a much different level of physicality that he was being asked to do, and then to come down the other end. So I'm hopeful that now that he can play with Hartenstein a little bit more, maybe we see his offensive game improve just because he's in his more natural role, exerting a more natural level of energy on the defensive end.
All right. Over, under. Alex Caruso shoots 35% for the remainder of the season from three.
Oh, over. What do you mean from now shooting 35%, or like it'll be over?
Yes, from now.
Yeah, I would definitely take the over.
I would also take the over. Yeah.
I mean, he's only shot below, I guess he's had 3 seasons where he shot below 35%, but even in those seasons he's been around like 33%. So he's like way under. Outside of, his rookie season, he's way under, shooting 20% right now.
You know what I think they should do? I think they should cut him and sign Samaje Christian.
That's a great idea.
Just for old time's sake.
Man, I was thinking about Samaj, just like the difference between the excitement we had for Samaj.
It's Samaje. And I know that because it's spelled Semaj and it's pronounced Samaje. And I do that Billy Donovan would say Samaj, and somebody at one point corrected him on Samaje, and Billy was like, no, Samaj is the nickname. And we're like, so the nickname is spelled, like, how would you spell it differently? Like the nickname is the same as the name. So you got to make sure when you spell it, whether you're saying his nickname or whether you're saying his full name.
Well, I was thinking about him in that Kings game because of AJ Mitchell, and like what a difference between, because we genuinely were excited for Samaje back in the day because he had a good summer.
It's Samaj.
Is it really?
Yeah, we know him well enough now. You can call him his nickname.
Oh my God. Like we were kind of excited that season just because he had a good summer league. Like
you're going to pronouns now. He had a good season. Yeah. Sorry, Alex. I'm ruining your podcast.
Actually,
on your podcast. I'm literally just interrupting you every sentence.
Well, on Basketball Reference, the phonetic pronunciation is Samaje. They actually put the J there, Jay. So maybe we're both wrong. Wow. But yeah, the difference in having like a rookie guard come in and what your expectations should be, which I think our expectations like for how Samaj's rookie season went was probably pretty accurate. Like that's how it goes most of the time. And to see the difference in this second round pick coming into a team that was the 1 seed last year, and that game he had against the Kings, because he was in there for a lot of that section in the second half when they started to pull away. Like, good Lord, he is so good. He is the fact that you can just slot this guy in to this team, and he's instantly like one of the best, 5 creators on the team, like good at getting to the rim. Like I'm just kind of blown away. And if he's this good now in his first like 15 games as an NBA player, like how much better can he get even within this one season? I mean, we may get to the playoffs and he's just like a 20 per minute guy,
Yeah, I mean, one indicator of how good he is that they haven't sent him to the G League once, and he's a two-way player and a second-round pick.
Yeah,
they have sent Dylan Jones down there. They continue to send Oos down there. They were always going to send their two-way players to the Blue. They have not sent him there once, and that to me is like one of the biggest indicators. And it doesn't mean that they will never send him to the G League. They may want to get him some like more on-ball reps with the G League. I actually don't think it's a horrible idea for him.
It'd be so unfair, Andrew. They could repeat as G League champions if they send him down there.
I know, but I think that they clearly found like a very he's a very thundery player. I don't know if he functions as well for like every single team in the NBA, but with the way that he thinks the game, he's perfect for a Mark Daigneault team. And I think that, let me double check this, because I think that he had the best on-off numbers. Okay, Shea passed him during the Sacramento game, but he's a plus 9.3 on cleaning the glass this season, which is second.
Andrew, to be clear, he's not just a plus 9.3. They're 9.3 points per 100 possessions better when he's on the court.
When he's on the court, yeah.
Which is even better than a plus 9.3.
Right, exactly. Yeah, it is wild when he comes on the court that as we've kind of watched him, you just kind of feel more comfortable when he's in the game because he's going to make the right decisions. He can score in a lot of ways. He can score around the basket. It's funny because he almost does, and even probably better from three because he shot the ball really well from three. He's probably doing what we would have hoped with our highest hopes that Nikola Topic would do for this team. You know what I mean? From the 12th, from the lottery pick. You know, he's doing that for this team and in small doses. And he fits this team in so many ways, as does Hartenstein. I wanted to talk more about like Hartenstein's personality because I've talked to AJ a few times. And like what sticks out about AJ is like, one, he's just like a super smart guy and he's so personable. And you can tell like he's just going to be easy when it comes to like being in a locker room full of guys. Like there's nothing about his personality that would lead you to think like, okay, like there could be some issues here or there. And there's not really any of those guys on this Thunder team really. But he just is like a super nice, kind, personable guy. And I've saw the same with Hartenstein too in my interactions with him. And Fred, you've had way more interactions with Hartenstein than I have. I wanted to just like track back to Hartenstein a little bit and talk about just personality wise. He is like such a good fit for this team. Not only on the court, but off the court and in the locker room and like being around the guys. I think like he's going to like enhance just like the locker room vibes for this team.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think by the way, is the nickname for AJ Age?
Age? I think it's Age.
Age.
Ajay, I think.
Right.
Because it's AJAY. I think it's Ajay.
Ajay. It's Age. Would be Aj.
Aj
would be the nickname, I guess. Aj Mitchell. Yes, I think Hartenstein would be has been from what it seems has been a very seamless fit into the Thunder locker room and their culture, and that's not necessarily surprising. The thing with Hartenstein is he wants to go about basketball the way that he believes basketball should be gone about. He is very principled, I would say, in terms of how he believes the game should be played. And if it's not being played the way that he believes it should be played, I think then he probably gets a little frustrated. I think he gets frustrated when he's on a team that doesn't have ball movement. I think he gets frustrated when he's on a team that doesn't have a lot of quick decision making. Look, even at the beginning of his time with the Knicks, it was, when he was with the Clippers, he was playing for Ty Lue, and he loved playing for Ty Lue. And he was with the Clippers, and he played with Ty Lue. He ran that bench unit, and he ran things out of the high post. He wanted to have this sort of highly intellectual sort of second unit that he was a part of. And he goes to the Knicks and signs with the Knicks and goes to Tibbs. And Tibbs at the beginning, this was not true by the end, but at the beginning starts using him as more of kind of a prototypical conventional 5, where he's setting screens and he's rim diving, and that's kind of it. And they're not using the passing. He's not using the quick decision making. And that Knicks team, his first year, did not have, especially out of the gate, did not have the greatest ball movement, because that's a team that's got Jalen Brunson, who's just starting in his time with New York, and he was really good off the bat, but everybody's getting familiar with him. It's got Julius Randle, who is going to create for himself, and he's an excellent passer, but he's going to want to get the ball. He's going to want to make his moves. And it's got RJ Barrett, and the ball was going to stick with Barrett as well. And it's got Mitchell Robinson clogging up the middle of the lane, so it's really hard to get to the hoop. And so that was a team where it was like there was a lot of stagnant offense, and they actually had a very good offense. But in terms of their principles, they were different from the way that Hartenstein believed that basketball should be played. And I think that frustrated him until he finally like kind of started to say, screw it, I'm going to buy into it. And he bought into it. And Tibbs started to be like, okay, we're going to use Hartenstein differently now, because we've seen all of these different skills that he has. And they both, I think, adapted to each other and got to a point where Hartenstein was playing the exact way that he believed the game should be played, and Tibbs was using him in this really beautiful way. And you saw by the end of his stint with the Knicks just how wonderful the basketball he and especially Brunson were playing together. But him and basically anybody, he was just a really good player for them last year, especially after Mitchell Robinson got hurt, when he really needed to step up and play high minutes. And I think that way that he believes the game should be played is how the Thunder already play. It's this lots of cutting, tons of communication, very pure, lots of ball movement, guys going super hard all the time. He's a really, really big believer in this unselfish sort of basketball. He would much rather get an assist than score a basket, I think. I think he cares more about those sorts of things. And so I think personality-wise, it's a good fit. And I think he believes in flexibility and, like we talked about, improvisation, which is something that is obviously very important to Mark Daigneault as well. And I think is something that Daigneault, that Presti, that the rest of the organization, and you guys tell me if you disagree, has really tried to instill on this roster, this sort of malleability and versatility, their ability of when they can survive, when they can go small, survive when they can go big, play fast, play slow. Like this is whether this is the best team in the league, second best team in the league, fourth best team in the league. It's the team in the league that is capable of playing the most different ways at a super high level. They can play really well, fast or slow or big or small or whatever else. They could have Jalen Williams taking jump balls, or they could have Isaiah Hartenstein taking jump balls, and they're still going to be good and they're going to be scary. And I think Hartenstein fits with that very well.
Yeah, I would say they're obsessed with being flexible and see it and they've done this throughout the year, like through the years of Mark being the head coach, and it has brought them to this point where they are now like throwing out a different starting lineup every game, in that they want guys, they want that to be like a almost like training their brains to be able to go in the game at any point in any situation with any lineup and kind of play the same. Because a lot of teams will be like, okay, we have this rotation. These guys have this comfort with going in at this particular time with these particular players, and they try to set that. The Thunder want to be the exact opposite of that, where you actually start to feel comfortable with the uncertainty of when you're going in, who you're playing with, what you're going to do, and that you just learn how to play the Thunder way. And like that's what they've wanted to instill in these players. And the players that have stuck around through the years are the players that can do that. I think Aaron Wiggins is a great example of that. Like I think they've loved him from the jump, just because they feel like they can throw him in anytime, and they could possibly not play him at all, and he's fine with that. I think Isaiah Joe has adapted in that way for them, and I think everybody else throughout the roster is that way. And the guys that aren't here, and it's not to say that they couldn't ever do that. I think there's a reason that they're not here. I think that those guys probably wouldn't adapt, as well to like a different role all the time. And honestly, like it really applies to everybody but like Shea. Probably everybody but Shea. Like Shea's going to have the same role. I think even J-Dub has like different roles, like game to game, for them.
No question. Dude started at center for 5 games or whatever it was between Holmgren being out and Hartenstein being
I think
out.
he enjoyed it. I think like he was goofy.
Oh, I
press conference.
I talked to him about it.
Yeah.
He definitely enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have to say think. Like he loved it. I mean, he loved taking the jump balls. He loved guarding 5s. He loves guarding bigger guys, and that's something that they've done a lot for years. I mean, sometimes they'll cross match even when Holmgren's in the game, right? And they'll have Holmgren guard a non-shooter and J double guard the 5, and he's guarded Karl Anthony Towns, and he's guarded Zion, he's guarded bigger guys over the years many times. But yeah, I mean, that's somebody who they're going to change things around. Lou Dort's role changes all the time. Like, yes, he's always got to be the scrappy defender, but sometimes he's guarding a point guard and sometimes he's guarding a big wing. And that's a big change. That's a big change. I think J-Dub has maybe the most ever-changing role of any all-star caliber player in the league.
Yeah.
I feel like that's kind of his identity, that he's such a shapeshifter at this point. The only real consistency that he has from night to night is that from like 3 minutes to go in the first quarter to 9 minutes to go in the second quarter, whenever it is, he's going to run the bench unit and he's going to slice teams apart, just like pick and roll, mid-range, and he's going to spray his shooters. And that's the only real consistency in his role. Otherwise, they're just like, you're going to do whatever we need on this given night. And he's like, I am going to do that with enthusiasm. I feel like that's his identity as a player now.
Totally.
Andrew, you mentioned that, like that overarching philosophy of wanting to have 5 guys who can kind of do everything that you would ask of a basketball player. But I think we've seen this season, like when you can't just throw 5 guys out there. Like just because 5 guys make quick decisions and are all good cutters or something, like we've seen this offense look really gross post Chet in a few games. And that whole philosophy works when you have a really high level creator. And that's what, or an improviser. Like that's what I've seen the most from Hartenstein, is that he has changed their game aesthetically. Like they are so much more aesthetically pleasing to watch as an offense now with him there, because there's so many different ways a play could go. I felt like, I forget what game it was. It was the really annoying game. Maybe it was the Spurs game, where it just felt like they were just doing this driving kick thing, like almost methodically. Like there was no really like dynamism to it. And they were just getting in this habit of just like kind of driving, kicking out to a shooter, shooting it. And they didn't shoot well that game. And so the offense looked really muddy. But then in that game against the Kings, like every time they come down the court, I honestly don't know what's going to happen, in a way that I couldn't say that with some of the games they played earlier this season. Like they were getting almost formulaic and predictable once Chet was out and without Hartenstein. And he just adds like so much more life into this offense that we just haven't seen from this team before. I mean, you mentioned the screening, like that alone adds a component to this offense that we just have not seen. The idea that J-Dub can just come off a screen and have room to take a wide open mid-range shot.
Yeah.
Like it's something so simple, but it completely changes the feel of the offense and the watchability of the offense.
Yeah. Yeah. Shea talked about it after the game, that he's like a dream big man for a superstar player, which when you watch it, it feels true. Cause I just don't remember Shea or Dub ever having the space that they had coming off of the Hartenstein screen to choose to like shoot the pull up or to get to the hoop. Like they have all the options available to them. And you could see them do it for the first time in game. And you could almost see them like thinking like, oh, what do I do? Like, what do I do with this? I can do anything I want. It was just really interesting to watch them in that Portland game, just because the space created was just, it was almost jarring. It was almost like, oh, like nothing has felt this easy. That's the thing I think with like the 5 like really small guys, is that nothing feels easy for them during those lineups. Like and I think that it's good for different stretches to play that way, just because it adds like a particular versatility that really not many teams can do. But I don't think it's a 48-minute thing. I think it's like a second quarter, into the second quarter, we're going to do this for 4 minutes, and we're going to see if we can create so much havoc that we gain like a 4-point advantage, before halftime. I don't think it's necessarily like hey, for 48 minutes, this is our identity. I think that it's really, really hard to maintain that, because they played really well with like the super small ball against some teams, and it was great. But then you saw them like run out of steam against Dallas and San Antonio.
Yeah.
Like, oh, like I think this is it's good for the Thunder to be able to kind of, the way that Shea said it, was sharpen this blade. But I think that there's probably a limit to playing that small in the NBA, just energy wise.
Yeah. Also, like, your bodies have to hold up.
Yeah.
That being said, Hartenstein and Chet off the floor this year, the Thunder are allowing only 108.5 points per 100 possessions. That's according to Clean the Glass. For perspective, that is in the 84th percentile. They foul like crazy in those lineups, and the reason why they are as good as they are defensively is because they are all swarming. They are forcing turnovers on 21% of those possessions. More than 1 in 5 possessions ends in a turnover. That is ridiculous. And it starts with the ball pressure up top, which is often with Dort, because in those lineups, they'll often have Dort pushing up against, you mentioned like the Dallas game where they lost steam, but it's like Dort is going up against Kyrie for a lot of that game, and you've got J-Dub on Gafford or J-Dub on Derek Lively. And it also starts with, like, they will just completely and utterly collapse on you when you get into the game. So if there's like that Kyrie Gafford pick and roll, it's like every single person, they're helping from the strong side, they're helping from the weak side. The entire defense is collapsing in on you, and you are going to be frantic, and they will give up shots at the rim, and they'll give up corner threes, but they're going to force a ton of of takeaways. And the other part of it is when Chet and Isaiah Hartenstein are off the court, and this I had checked as of a couple of days ago, and I'll have a story coming out later this week with an updated number on this, but as of a couple of days ago, with Chet and Hartenstein off the floor, they were allowing like 1.2 something points per possession on shots at the rim, which is the lowest number. If it belonged to a team, would be the lowest number of any team in the league. Meaning no Chet, no Hartenstein. This team is protecting the rim better than the best team in the league. And it shows what just group defense can do when everybody jumps on somebody as soon as they get to the paint. That includes foul rate as well. So like they're fouling a lot in those lineups for sure, which makes sense. They're gambling more because they have to, but they have been successful with this very unconventional construction in this very unconventional way. And I agree with you, Andrew. You can't do it for 48 minutes, and you certainly can't do it for 48 minutes in games that like really matter. Like you do that in a playoff series, that's not ideal. That's why you have Chet, and that's why you have Hartenstein. You have them out there to be the backbones of your defense while also still being obviously very good offensive players. But I don't think it's something they should just never do. Like it's a great change up, It's to me, treat it the same way that you treat relievers in baseball, where it's like every once in a while in the middle of the regular season, you got to throw a bullpen game, but you don't want to throw a bullpen game in the playoffs.
Yeah.
That said, every once in a while, it might be the playoffs, And you might be like, we could really use this guy who throws 98 right now because we got 3 guys coming up who can't hit fastballs. And so we're just going to put in this lineup that throws 98 miles an hour, and this other team's not going to be able to handle it for 4 minutes. And once they figure it out, we'll go back to Cheddar, go back to Isaiah. And I think those lineups are so frantic and so different looking that I think it's just another thing. It's another style that this team has in its back pocket. And they've had moments of success with it during the regular season. So moments that matter, they can reach back and be like, we're confident in this because we have seen that we can succeed with this.
Yeah, I think the thing that I realized after last year's playoffs is like, I was so hyped on this small ball idea, but then it's like, what happens if you run into a team that doesn't turn the ball over? It like kind of screws up your math. And we saw it this season in the game against Dallas. Like Dallas is just really good at holding on to the ball. I think they were like top 5 in turnover percentage. Boston consistently is like right at the top of the league. They're top right now in turnover percentage. And it's a gamble, I feel like, to rest so much of your ability to work those small ball lineups on your ability to get these turnovers, because eventually you're going to run into teams that are just better at holding onto the ball. But adding in Hartenstein, I feel like it gives them like that extra thing they need. Okay, if they aren't getting turnovers tonight, well, now they can do something else. I mean, actually the fewest turnovers they forced was that game against the Kings. The Kings only turned the ball over 12 times in that game. They're really good at holding onto the ball. But the Thunder just had so many more options to beat the Kings, and it didn't have to rely on those turnovers, which I like that idea. Like not having to put all my eggs in, like, we have to get 18 turnovers per night for this math to work out because we know we're going to get killed on the boards. You know, they actually out-rebounded the Kings, which they have not done in many, many years. I think it was 2021 the last time they did that.
The other side of it is that the Thunder really end up winning possession games because even in games they don't force as many turnovers as they normally do, they don't really ever turn it over.
Yeah.
So they're what, second in the league in turnover?
Yeah, they're second behind Boston.
Right now offensively, and they're first in the league in turnover rate defensively. That math's going to work out. That's going to get you a lot more shots than your opponent has. You know, if you're putting up 10 more shots than your opponent, you're going to be in a pretty good place to win.
Yeah. The Thunder play the Warriors tonight in I was going to say in Golden State, which is not really a thing, in San Francisco.
Yes.
And the injury report does not have Cason Wallace on it, which I was a little surprised. He had to leave with an ankle injury during the Kings game, but he is apparently good to go. Still no Caruso. I don't know. I can't remember if we talked about Oos breaking his finger on Monday, but Oos out for a minute. And then obviously no Chet, and then still no Jay Will, who I assume will be back in the next, 3 weeks at the most, I would guess. I'm intrigued to see what the team looks like with him as like a true backup center for them with this version of the team. And then Caruso still remains out. And then Steph Curry is questionable with bilateral knee patelloform. What is it? I don't know what it says. So he's got some pain in his knee.
All right.
Jonathan Kuminga is sick. I think he's got a little tummy ache. And then obviously DeAnthony Melton is out, who was awesome against the Thunder in their last game. So obviously the biggest one to watch is like, does Steph Curry end up playing? Is obviously a pretty big deal for the Golden State.
And one thing I did want to say on this podcast is I don't want to put too much into that Kings game because that was one of the most unfair rest disadvantage games that I can remember. Like a team on the second night of a back-to-back versus a team with 4 nights coming off of 4 days off.
Hey, but rest versus rust. Who's to say?
Rest versus Russ. Think about that.
Russ versus Russ. Okay.
But the flip side of that is that the team that they played on the first night of the back-to-back, the Brooklyn Nets, on their second night of the back-to-back, went into Golden State and won.
Yeah.
Golden State's actually on a 2-game losing streak.
I know.
The Spurs and the Nets.
I know.
Which is wild.
Yeah.
And we should mention the NBA Cup standings because
we have to dive into the Cup standings.
Should we?
Yes.
What do you mean, should we? What was that look? What was that look, Fred?
Why don't you respect the Cup?
I don't like that look.
between the cups and the skeets.
Come on, you're not into the NBA Cup at all.
I'm not into the NBA Cup until the actual like tournament begins.
Yeah, but we're trying to figure out who's gonna go.
I just wait to be told.
What is
I
that?
just wait. I just wait to be told.
Fred,
Wow.
I sit back. I wait to be told.
that's not how this works. They're not like doing a drawing.
Yeah.
It's not like a lottery.
You're deciding right now.
That's what it is.
It's very
To
exciting.
me, they could do a random drawing of teams to go to the NBA Cup, to go to the tournament, and I would have absolutely no idea if it was a random drawing or based on standings.
Listen, West Group B got very exciting last night. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, because if obviously OKC needs to beat the Lakers on Friday, but
Yeah.
if that happens, they will have the tiebreaker over the Lakers and the Suns. But the Spurs are 2-1 right now.
Yeah,
and beat the Thunder. So I have no idea like what all the machinations.
they may. I mean, they're gonna have to beat the Lakers by a lot, and then they need to beat the Jazz by a ton because because of what Phoenix did to the Lakers last night. They have the best. They suddenly have the best point differential, which is
does point differential override head-to-head record if it was just two teams?
it's a tie. It is the tiebreaker.
Is the tiebreaker?
Yeah.
Well, Markkanen got hurt last night.
I know. I saw that, which is very unfortunate. You would never want that to happen. And the Thunder should completely take advantage of that next week when they play the Utah Jazz. Like they need to go beat the Jazz by 40.
They need to respect the cup.
They need to respect the cup and beat them by 40. Who was the team that decided to they felt bad for a team and they were like, you know what? I think it was the Mavericks, right? The Mavericks were playing somebody, and Jason Kidd said that he didn't want to embarrass them. It's like, dude, this is for the cup, brother. Oh, it was against New Orleans. It was against New Orleans. They did not want to embarrass New Orleans.
I was watching that Wolves Rockets game last night, and
yeah,
as long as the Rockets won, they were going to clinch Group A. But Jabari Smith Jr. did one of those like disrespectful shots at the end of overtime, like where players usually just dribble it out.
Yeah.
And at first I was like, oh my gosh, that's so disrespectful. Everyone's going to be talking about this. But then I remembered it was the NBA Cup, and they probably just, you might as well, like you're supposed to have.
What's funny about that one is that literally every other team in West Group A has a negative differential, but
really?
Yeah. The Rockets are a plus 49 in these cup games.
Wow.
The next closest to them is the Clippers at a -5. So it was, in fact, quite disrespectful and unnecessary.
Jeez Louise. Those two teams, they're like, for me, the two most maddening teams to watch because their defenses are both really good and their offenses just like go in and out of being like a pretty solid versus just the worst offense you've ever seen. And it can happen from like, they'll have like these like 5-minute stretches, both of them. And it looked like the Timberwolves were in total control of that game. And then they just started crapping all over the floor.
God, it was
at the
so
end.
bad. It was so
bad.
Yeah.
All right, you guys have convinced me. I'm in on the cup.
Are you in?
Oh,
I'm all
Fred
in.
Katz,
I'm all in
cup
on the Rockets
respecter.
point differential now.
Hell yeah.
Even though that Jabari Smith 3 didn't count because overtime points don't count towards point differential.
Oh, look at
That's
you.
true.
That is
That's
true.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that.
Hey,
That
did
is-
you guys see the stat what Jalen Green is doing in isolation this year?
No.
So in among guys who are like getting a decent number of isolation attempts per game, he's last in the league.
Yeah.
On isolation attempts, points per possession, Jalen Green is currently scoring 0.44 points per 100 possessions. He's shooting 13% on isolation plays this season. Isn't that wild?
No.
Oh no.
That is so bad.
I know.
That is why do we give him this contract bad?
Yeah. And the frustrating thing is they have so many guys. Like they just put Amen in place of him last night. And it was like awesome.
Yeah. He didn't really even play.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
love watching that guy defend. Holy crap.
He's ridiculous.
He is outrageous.
Yeah.
He's all defense good right now.
Yeah, he made the play last night that actually got the Rockets to overtime. Was he just was like, nope, I have the ball now, Rob Dillingham, and then took it coast to coast to tie the game. I mean, that was unbelievable.
He is.
Do you think
is insane defensively? Insane.
Do you when you think about if you were another team, let's say you're getting to a fantasy draft and you're trying to build a team to guard SGA, who would be like some of the first couple names you would choose, and would Amen Thompson make like your top 5?
Yes, I think he would. Because if you're trying to guard, are you trying to guard SGA with like the Thunder's idealized lineup?
Yes.
Yeah.
So you probably want, so like they're going to play 5 out. So you need 5 guys who are all really good on the perimeter. So I'm probably going to have Amen Thompson, and I'm probably going to have someone like OG Anunoby, and I'm probably going to have someone like Herb Jones.
Yeah, I was gonna.
And those are the first 3 names that come to mind. And with SGA, you need somebody who's going to be a really good team defender and also rim protector at the hoop. So maybe like a Bam type, who is going to be a really good rim protector, a really good team defender, but is also able to switch out onto the perimeter. Maybe that's the guy you want on the back line, right? Like I think I'd probably with like Gobert is not good enough chasing guys around.
Yeah, he's too slow.
So I don't think that would be the guy. Maybe Anthony Davis is the guy you'd want there. I just think Bam is. I just think a little higher of Bam as a defender because I love the way that Bam moves his feet. And then I don't know. Maybe you get a 5th guy. Honestly, the ideal team to defend Shea, the Oklahoma City Thunder. You just throw Isaiah Hartenstein out there. You put J-Dub. You put Dort.
Caruso.
Dort knows all his tendencies. You go Caruso.
Honestly, Chet would be such a fascinating one to watch against Shea, because like whenever a lot of teams like thought they could put Chet out on an island and then like go right past him, and he actually did really well, and almost every time teams tried to do that against him. I would love to see like a one-on-one Shea versus Chet and see like what happens there, because that to me is a really interesting one.
Yeah, but the Rockets are well equipped for that. Like we talk about the Thunder going small. The Rockets are the other team that when they go small, they're really fun. I wrote a little nugget on this yesterday, but they'll have moments where they don't use a conventional center, where Şengün's not on the floor, where Steven Adams isn't on the floor, where Jock Landale's not on the floor, and Amen Thompson is basically their 5 in those scenarios, and he is a joy to watch in those situations. He is awesome. Somebody who I actually think might be better than Bam, who I think this guy is, or you can play alongside Bam. You just play him at the 4 because he's a better 4. But I think Jonathan Isaac is the best per minute defender out there. But he just, I don't know, with the health, you never know. But like Jonathan Isaac's versatility is insane because he's a shot blocker. He'll guard point guards. Like during their first round series against, which they lost to Cleveland last year, it's like he legitimately spent time guarding Donovan Mitchell, guarding Darius Garland, guarding Jared Allen, and guarding Evan Mobley.
Yeah.
Like there just aren't any guys in the league who do that. That's another guy who I think is really interesting person to talk about because of the size.
He's huge. Not only like he's very mobile, but he's every time that I see him in person, like he's just a lot bigger than you remember, because you kind of think of him as like a 4, like a wing. But like he's like the size of Chet almost whenever you see him out there. I mean, it is pretty wild what he can do.
I don't know. Anybody I didn't name that you guys think?
Somebody in the chat brought up Josh Giddey. Said Josh Giddey would be top 5. So
people in the chat have been talking a lot about Josh Giddey today. There's been a lot of Giddey talk. I feel a little bad for Giddey. I didn't think the Chicago situation was like the best one for him, and it's proving to not be that. He is completely uninterested in playing defense this season, which, he was never a great defender in Oklahoma City, but you could always see him giving effort at least. And you could like point out like good defensive plays that he made, but there are like some Harden-esque lowlights out there right now with Josh that are just kind of brutal, and I don't know what to say.
He did take 8 free throws against the Wiz.
Hey,
I don't know if that's a career high, but that's a lot for Josh Giddey.
I mean, it's gotta be close to it. It's got to be close to a career high. Yeah, I'm just shout out to Josh Giddey, but I'm just glad we don't have to talk about him on every podcast anymore, to be honest.
But you can still in the chat if you'd like to.
But if you want to join us on YouTube, you are free to talk about him in the chat. Hey, Fred is going to have a piece about the Thunder that's going to drop on Friday at The Athletic.
Ooh, how nice. Post-Thanksgiving.
It's going to be very fun. Would you like to give a little tease, Fred?
Would you like to read it to us?
Would you like to read it? Can you pull it up real quick?
Give us an exclusive.
I'll skeet it out when I'm done.
Okay, yeah.
Thank you.
It's about stuff that some of the stuff we discussed today, just about kind of how versatile this defense is, what they learned during the time with Chet and Hartenstein out when they had to go really small, and kind of how they can use that to their advantage and use their malleability to their advantage moving forward.
It's great. Go check it out. There's a really fun anecdote at the beginning of it that I won't spoil, but I know that you'll want to read. So please go check that out. At The Athletic, you can go to theathletic.com, which I don't think that's our URL anymore, but I forget what our URL is. Do you remember, Fred? This is a little embarrassing.
Theathletic.com? Oh, it's NewYorkTimes.com/athletic.
Yeah, NewYorkTimes.com.
But if you do theathletic.com, it goes there.
Yeah, but if you do NewYorkTimes.com/athletic/down to dunk.
Oh, down to
and
dunk.
then click on Fred's piece on Friday. I think that's good for us. Is that still a thing, Alex? Are you trying it?
Did not work.
Don't do that.
That only works if you're not a subscriber.
Oh, okay. Okay. So if you're not subscribed, okay, that's what you should say. If you're not subscribed, The Athletic, you can still do theathletic.com/down to dunk, and you can get a discounted rate at The Athletic, and then you can read Fred's piece. So please do that. We will be back on Friday with a post-Thanksgiving pod where we will try to figure out which Thunder player is which Thanksgiving side dish. I'm sure that we'll do that. We always do that. And talk a little bit about this Warriors matchup that will happen tonight. Preview the very important NBA Cup game. In fact, might be the most important NBA Cup game in the history of the Thunder.
Oh, honestly. Definitely. This is the big one, folks.
This is it.
If you love the Cup, you better get yourself in front of a TV set on Friday. Okay,
you better. And there's potential for a emergency pod after such a game.
Wow,
because it's such a big game. So
I'm gonna be respecting the Cup in person. I'm gonna be at Blazers Kings.
Oh,
Cup
are
game.
you?
Yeah.
It's starting to sound like a euphemism to me.
Respecting the Cup.
Respecting the
Cup.
Yeah,
I respect the Cup.
Do you?
In person. I respect the Cup
in person
by myself. I do it by myself. I respect the Cup in private. Privacy in my own home.
Fred, do you feel like your life has changed now that you're an NBA, like a national NBA writer? Like, do people address you differently now that you're not just some old beat writer for one team?
Did you ask me this previously?
No.
No, not at all. Still no respect at all. I'm still coming on podcasts and talking about.
Still coming on loser podcasts like this, subjecting yourself. Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm still coming on and just talking about skeeting and screening and nothing else.
Well, it's a transition.
Good answer. Okay. Thanks so much for listening to our show. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page. There's a lot of exclusive content there where you can watch the Thunder try to spell each other's names, and it's pretty funny. So go check that out. Hope you guys are having a great day. Hope you have a great Thanksgiving if you are listening in the United States of America, and we will talk to you guys again on Friday.